Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Novelists Unwind. We're so happy that you're joining us. My special guest today is Anne Gabhart. Anne has written historical novels, shaker novels, and also some cozy mysteries. I'm actually reading the first book in her Hidden Springs series right now called Murder at the Courthouse. And I will tell you, I've had a really hard time even putting it down. It is just such such a good story, and I'm almost at the end and can't wait to see how she's going to wrap everything up. So Anne, we're so glad to have you. I will, for those listening, Anne is in Kentucky and I'm in Florida, and we may have a little bit of delay with the internet, so please just bear with us if there are any little tiny glitches in the audio. So Anne, tell us a little bit about your writing journey and about living in Kentucky. I was so intrigued that you still attend the church that you grew up in. Is that right?
Well, actually, I started going to that church when I got married.
Okay.
And of course, that's practically when I was a child. So I've been at that church for over 50 years.
Wow.
It's a little country church, and I've used that little church in my Heart of Holly Hill books. I used it as a prototype of my church in that book, because there's a part-time preacher that takes over that church, and of course Josie has grown up as a preacher's daughter in that series. So I've used a lot of the things that I experienced being in a small church, but small churches are fun, and I've enjoyed being there for the last 50 plus years.
No, I think that's wonderful.
I actually am glad to be here with you, Johnnie, and talk to people about my writing. I've been writing for a long time, ever since I was about 10, and read the Hardy Boy mystery books and decided it would be fun to be a sleuth and solve it. So I decided to write my own mystery starring me. Of course, I was a much less shy and cuter girl than I actually was. That was a lot of fun, and I've been writing something ever since. My first book was published in the general market in 1978.
Wow.
My last book, Murder is No Accident, was published just not too long ago, and that's one of the Hidden Springs books.
Yes.
And then in September, I think it's my 35th published novel, maybe, and will be These Healing Hills, which I don't have a copy of yet, but it's got a lovely cover. I'm really looking forward to that book being out for readers, because it's set in the Appalachian Mountains, about the frontier nursing service, a lot of great history, a lot of great atmosphere in the mountains, and I'm excited and hope readers will be excited. But I've been writing for a long time, written a lot of different kinds of books.
I love that. I think that's great that you've had such a broad range of writing experiences. And I really want to talk to you a little bit about these healing hills. I don't know. I just have a hard time saying those words all close together. These healing hills.
I tell people that I'm going to have a contest to let them see if they can say that 5 times straight. It's very difficult.
I would not win. I would not win. But you know, I was reading the information about it in the Frontier Nursing Service, and of course that is something that really happened. Mary Breckenridge, I believe, is the name of the person who started that organization, and I read a statistic that like in 50 years there were over 17,000 babies delivered thanks to these nurses. So can you just tell us a little bit about the Frontier Nursing Service, and then how your interest in that led you to write this particular novel?
Well, I don't know that I had particular interest in that, but when I did read about Mary Breckenridge, I thought it sounded like a great thing that she did, and was very interesting, and so I've always written, my historical books have always had a Kentucky background, and so when I'm ready for a new idea, I like to look around and try to find some other facet of Kentucky history that I can use in a novel, and so that was what I came across, and I read her autobiography, which was very interesting. And then I read some books about other midwives that had written about their experiences in the mountains. And actually, the Frontier Nursing Service is still going on. They
Oh,
still have a school that train midwives and midwife nurses, and it has not stopped. It's a little different now, but they still have the couriers that come and volunteer their services to help the midwife nurse and Frontier Nursing Service, where Mary Breckenridge established her headquarters in Wendover, Kentucky. That is now actually a bed and breakfast,
oh
and you can
wow.
go there and discover how she lived and a lot of the history of the Frontier Nursing Service. And I did visit Wendover and talk to one of the gentlemen there. That's Michael Clausen, that is head of that outfit right now, and he gave me a lot of good history, and it was good to be walking the same path that Mary Breckenridge had walked and see where they, at one time, Kappa said that one of their recruiting ads to get nurses to come to their midwife school back in the 1930s and 40s was that you'll get your own horse, your own dog, and plenty of adventure.
I love it. Your own horse, your own dog. So did the dogs just go with, I mean, they just walked along beside the horses and with the nurses as they went into the mountains?
A lot of times they did. One of the personal experiences books that I read about one of the midwives. I unfortunately can't remember the name of that person right this minute, but she had a dog that was quite the dog. I sort of modeled my dog, Sarge, in the book, sort of on the dog that she had.
Oh,
But
cool.
that dog saved her life several times by warning her of a landslide. He stopped her on the trail and didn't let her go forward because there was going to be a landslide, and somehow the dog knew that before she did. And then other times the dog, of course, in my book, the dog is handy for getting rid of snakes. So
That would have been my thought.
That's one reason that they had the dogs, was because the rattlesnakes in the hills, and the dog could warn them about that.
That's really cool. Now, and this story is set right after World War II because your hero is a World War II vet, right?
Right. He's just coming home from over in Europe, and actually has had an accident there, so he got to come home a little bit earlier than some of the other soldiers. Even though the war is over, it did take a while for all the soldiers to be decommissioned and brought home, and he got up a little bit because of his injury that he had. But he comes home, and they eventually meet, and they've got such opposite backgrounds that you're not sure that this is going to work out for them.
Well, I know
in the Frontier that did not happen. I mean, only one in all the years that the nurses were there, only one time did a Frontier nursing nurse meet a mountain person and end up getting married.
Oh, really?
The romance was not really a option for the Frontier nurses. I mean, they came for service, and they didn't come to fall in love with somebody.
That's interesting though, because that's really low. Just that happened only once. That's interesting. So where does your heroine come from? What's her background? She's not from the mountain.
No, actually, most of the initially, when Mary Breckenridge established the Frontier Nursing Service, her midwives were all from England or from overseas, because at that time doctors did not encourage midwives. There were no midwife schools in America. And so Mary Breckenridge actually went to England and was trained as a midwife. And so she got recruited English midwives to come to the Appalachian Mountains. But then during the war, because England was in the war long before we were, and the English nurses felt the need to go back and serve their country and use their skills to help the soldiers and people in their own country. And so that's why Mary Breckenridge opened up a midwife school in Hyden, Kentucky, was in order to train new midwives. My midwife lady is, well, she's not a midwife, she's a nurse to begin with, and from Cincinnati. So she
Okay.
comes to midwife school.
Yeah. So it would be quite different from her coming from a big city like Cincinnati would have been at that time to the mountain.
Quite a change. I mean, at that time, even in the 1940s, there were not many conveniences, no indoor plumbing, no electricity in most of places, out in the mountain parts. They did begin to get battery-powered refrigerators or gasoline motor refrigerators. So, things, and they had like a telephone that you could go to somewhere and call, but, all the conveniences that you might be used to in the city, you weren't going to have in the mountains at that time.
Yeah, it would have been quite a change. I like too something that I read about the book. I think that you had answered a question. You said that part of one of the themes that you have in the story is that blessings await on the far side of disappointment. And I just thought that was such a sweet and true thing to say, and we don't all, we live our lives and we have these disappointments and things come up, and we just don't see at the moment the blessings that can come from that till we get on the other side of it. So can you tell us just a little bit about how that came to be part of this story?
Well, one of the reasons that my heroine, if I can think of her name, Fran, her name escaped me. One of the reasons that she came to the midwifery school was that she thought she would be marrying a returning soldier that was her high school sweetheart, and he found a English girl and fell in love while he was in England, and wrote her a Dear Joan letter. So she was anxious to have a new start, a new beginning. And the Frontier Nursing Service had a saying that they would say to each other, and that nobody came there by accident. And so, Francine has to learn that even though it wasn't what she planned, maybe it was what was the better path for her eventually.
No, I love that. I thought that was just really, and I thought it was such a sweet way to say it. Blessings await on the far side of disappointment. It's hopeful. It's a hopeful statement, and I liked it. Let's talk a little bit, then switch gears and talk a little bit more about your mysteries, because I've written a historical and I've written, I'm writing a couple cozy mysteries now, and it's a very different process for me. How different is it for you? Do you plan out your mysteries ahead of time, or do you just sort of write them and see what happens? Or, what is your writing process like?
Well, I'm more of what they call the seat of the pants writer. I pretty much have an initial idea. I sort of know where I'm going, but then a lot changes generally while I'm writing. Of course, when I'm writing a historical novel, I'll have the basic history facts that can guide you and give you a framework of where you're going, because you've got such and such dates and so forth. And I don't know that the Healing Hills is that much like that, because the history is there, but it's more of a fluid history. It could be maybe next year or the last year or whatever. But with the mysteries, you do need to plant clues, and you do need to have a bad guy. You do need to have, unfortunately, murders.
You do.
In these little towns.
You do.
You can't have a cozy mystery without a murder. Of course, a cozy mystery, what designates a cozy mystery generally is that the violence or whatever takes place off the page. You don't really see the murder happening. You just discover the corpse.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit more of a gentle read. I don't know that, of course, it was a lot different writing the mysteries, because for one thing, it was a contemporary book instead of a historical book. So you have to sort of have a more contemporary mindset And I did set it in a small town so that I could still be maybe on the innocent side of contemporary. But I don't know. Once I get an idea, it's just sort of the same with any story. You've got your characters, and they lead you through whatever's going to happen. Hopefully, they'll whisper in your ear what they want to say, what has to happen next. It can get difficult in writing any book. In the middle, you begin to sort of feel like you've hit the doldrums and the wind out of your creative sails, and unless you just keep plugging along, you're just going to be stuck. But if you keep plugging along and keep putting words down, eventually that wind starts feeling the sails again, and you somehow make it to the end. Generally, then when I reread my book, I'm going, wow, it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Well, I love it. I'm like you. In my historicals and the contemporaries I've been much more seat of the pen. But the publisher for the cozy wants you to, they want to see how you're going to do it. So I've had to do the outline, and it's just been a very different process then. But the writing goes faster, because I already know what's going to happen, and I know what the clues are and the false clues. So it seems like you do more upfront work, and then, the writing goes faster. And then the other method, the writing can take a longer time, but then the editing goes faster. So.
Well, I've never had to write that outline. I probably would have not written Cozy Mystery if I had to write the outline.
I know,
but
it's different. But I love it. I mean, I don't know, I don't want to sound insulting, because I'm not at all, because I love it. But, I was expecting a light read. Cozy mysteries usually are light, they're light, pretty fast. But you have a depth to this cozy mystery that was just so, it just pulled me in, and your writing and your phrasing and the words. And so, I'm a big fan of your cozies now. Can't wait to read the next two in the series. I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is just what it's a great story, but it's just beyond most of the cozies I read, which are just fun, and they're great. But this one, I don't know, you just go a little deeper, it seems to me, with the characters, and I love it.
I don't think I was necessarily trying to write a cozy mystery as such. The way it turned out, but it is not the norm. It is not the typical cozy mystery. For one thing, it has a male hero who is a law enforcement person. That's generally a no with the cozy. So I broke a lot of rules with the cozy. If you have cozy rules,
well,
I broke some of those rules.
Yeah, there are. So, well, good for you being a rule breaker.
I tell people.
I'm sorry.
I tell people the only thing that makes them cozy is those cats on the cover.
Oh. Yeah.
Get the cat on the cover.
Yeah.
I think my books are actually character driven. A lot of my stories are more character driven than they have plot, but I think that may be the difference with the mystery, is that I've developed my characters more than some of the lighter, as you say, reads, which are still entertaining and fun to read.
Fun, very fun to read. But yes, I would agree that there's with Michael is your hero, your main character in the series, and he just is. There's nothing stereotypical about him. He's definitely a well-rounded character, and you're just wanting to root for him. You don't want things to work out okay for him. So yeah, it's very, very good. So okay, well, go ahead.
You have to read the other two to find out if things work out.
I'm going to. Believe me, I'm going to. Here's my Kindle. I've got your book on my Kindle, The Mystery, and I'm going to, definitely will be reading the next two as well. So how do your readers connect with you, Anne? What's the best way for people to find you online?
I have a website, www.annhjohnnie.com. Gabhart, GABHART.com. On that, you can access both of my blogs. I have a one writer's journal blog that I usually post twice a week. Have a lot of contests on that to give away books. Sometimes we do this little, what I call my mystery photo contest that my readers really enjoy, and I'll put a little bit of a picture up, and then they see if they can guess what it really is.
Oh, cute.
And then sometimes I do flowers and let them guess a flower. Sometimes I do pictures, let them put a caption. So I have tried to do different things along in my blog. And then Josie, my heroine my young heroine in the Heart of Holly Hill books, when those were reissued a few years ago, I started a little blog that she writes, news from Holly Hill. And I'm not as good about that as I was. Josie just got so busy that she doesn't have time.
Doesn't have time to blog anymore. That's great. I saw your website. It's beautiful. Your site is very inviting, and I just love sort of, exploring the different pages on it and seeing your pictures and all of that. So yes, invite everyone to check out Anne's website, and on there you can sign up for Anne's newsletter.
And also I have a Facebook author page where we have a lot of fun on that page. I have several daily things that I do, like Sunday. One of my most popular one is Sunday morning coming down, and I take a little walk on Sunday mornings and say what I see. And for some reason, people enjoy walking along with me. Wow. Then on today, I have Shaker Wednesday, and so I put a little historical fact about the Shakers every Wednesday. Friday, I have Friday Smiles, which is jokes all day. So I have different things, and that one is just Anne Gabhart, Facebook.com Gabhart. But you can access all those from my website too, and find out all about my books, read samples, chapters of each title at my website too, and find ways to buy them as well.
That's right. You will not be disappointed if you do. Okay, last question. When you are finished writing a book and you spent all this time on it and then you hit the end, what do you do to unwind?
Well, I take a deep breath. Actually, when I finish the book and right the end, I'm really anxious to go back and reread it and do editing. But eventually I do get the editing done, and then I do the things that I've been putting off for months or whatever. This year I was determined to redo my decks, stain my decks. So that wasn't much fun, but I did get to plan to see my grandkids a little more maybe, and just things like that. Like to catch a book that I've been looking forward to reading and maybe didn't want to read while I was actually writing, because sometimes, as Johnnie has said, they're hard to put down once you start reading them. And if you've got a deadline, you need to write.
I know. I'm doing a lot of reading right now, because of doing these interviews, and it's like, and I've got some writing I need to do too, but it's so hard to put the books down and do that writing. So I'm gonna have to stay up late some nights, I think, get caught up or something.
So many books, so little time, right?
Well, Anne, thank you so much for joining us. Again, check out Anne's website. She's got lovely photos on there, her blogs, her writing. She's just so welcoming. It's a lovely site. And pick up the Healing Hills when it comes out. And if you can't wait, grab the mysteries because you will not be disappointed. So until next week, that's all for Novelists Unwind. I'm Johnnie Alexander. I'm so glad that you were with us. Bye-bye.